Why pagodas don't fall down? In a land swept by typhoons and shaken by earthquakes, how Japan's tallest and seemingly flimsiest old buildings, 500 or so wooden pagodas, remained standing for centuries. Records show that only two have collapsed during the past 1400 years. Those that have disappeared or destroyed by fire as a result of lightning or civil war. The disastrous Hanshin earthquake in 1995 killed 6,400 people, toppled elevated highways, flattened office blocks, and devastated the port area of Kobe. Yet, it left the magnificent five-story pagoda and the Toji Temple in nearby Kyoto unscathed, though it leveled a number of buildings in the neighborhood. Japanese scholars have been mystified for ages about why these tall, slender buildings are so stable. It was only 30 years ago that the building industry felt confident enough to erect office blocks of steel and reinforced concrete that has more than a dozen floors. With its special shock absorbers to dampen the effect of the sudden sideways movement from an earthquake, the 36-story Kasumigaseki building in central Tokyo, Japan's first skyscraper, was considered a masterpiece of modern engineering when it was built in 1968. Yet, in 826, with only pegs and wedges to keep his wooden structure upright, the master builder Kobodaishi has no hesitation in sending his majestic Toji pagoda soaring 55 meters into the sky, nearly half as high as the Kasumigaseki skyscraper, built some 11 centuries later. Clearly, Japanese carpenters of the day knew a few tricks about allowing a building to sway and settle itself rather than find nature's forces. But what sort of tricks? The multi-story pagoda came to Japan from China in the 6th century. As in China, they were first introduced with Buddhism and were attached to important temples. The Chinese built their pagodas in brick or stone, with inner staircases, and used them in later centuries, mainly as watchtowers. When the pagoda reached Japan, however, its architecture was fully adapted to local conditions. They were built less high, typically 5 rather than 9 stories, made mainly of wood, and the staircase were dispensed with, because the Japanese pagoda did not have any practical use, but became more of an art object. Because of the typhoons that battered in Japan this summer, Japanese builders learned to extend the eaves of buildings further beyond the walls. This prevents rainwater rushing down the walls. Pagodas in China and Korea have nothing like the overhang that is found on pagodas in Japan. The roof of Japanese temple building can be made to overhang the side of the structure by 50% or more of the building's overall width. For the same reason, the builders of Japanese pagodas seem to have further increased their weight by choosing to cover these extended eaves, not with the porcelain tiles of many Chinese pagodas, but with much heavier earthenware tiles. But this does not totally explain the great resilience of Japanese pagodas. Is the answer that, like a tall pine tree, the Japanese pagoda, with its massive trunk, like central pillar known as Shimbashira, simply flexes and sways during a typhoon or earthquake? For centuries, many thought so, but the answer is not simple, because the startling thing is that the Shimbashira actually carries no load at all. In fact, some pagoda designs, it does not even rest on the ground, but